Hi, I'm Pierre, aka Pedro, and welcome to EV6 Guru, a channel born and forged from my purchase of the KIA EV6 all-wheel drive electric vehicle. Today I'll be installing a dual camera dash cam into my brand new KIA EV6. Watch me step by step as I meticulously install the Blackvue DR900X Plus. Now, although this video is primarily about hardwiring the dash cam directly to the fuse box to take advantage of the camera's parking mode feature, I also touch base on a couple of other connection methods for those of you who are a little reluctant dabbling with electrics. May I also point out the full installation will probably take anywhere between 3 to 5 hours, so start early to avoid working in the dark. Should you want to skip to a different section of this video, I've provided timestamp links down in the description below. Now, before I kick off with the installation, I highly recommend you check out my other video, where I show you how to download the software, properly format the memory card, and install the firmware. A link to that video can be found in the top right corner of this video. I've also included a link to it in the description below. Now, I tend to be very pedantic, certainly when it comes to doing things like this, and who could blame me? The KIA EV6 is a very expensive car. Like me, try to plan as much as you can in advance, making sure you have all the necessary tools and the parts to do the job correctly. Trust me, it'll make things a whole lot easier for you. The last thing I want to do is damage any of the internal body panels, or even worse, fry my electrics. Just remember, this is an aftermarket product, so if for any reason something should happen, such as being involved in an accident, I'd like to think my dash cam installation wouldn't affect my warranty or hinder an insurance claim in any way. Hopefully, this video will provide evidence of that, should anything ever come of it. First, download and install the Blackvue app. Now, we won't be able to fully set it up until we've connected the main camera and powered it up. I'll also be uploading a separate video about the various settings and features of the Blackvue app, so if you don't want to miss that, be sure to subscribe. Okay, let's open the boot. I've neatly laid out everything I'm going to need here. Right, let's take a closer look at some of the tools I've got here. You'll need a trim removal tool. This one came with the Blackvue Dash Cam. Looks fairly basic, but I'm sure it'll do the job. I have a basic electrical circuit tester for checking if the power is getting to the fuses. This will light up when the end comes in contact with power. This particular one, it's quite cheap. A crimping and wire cutting tool, which can also shred various thickness wires. I have two Micro 2 blade fuse taps, which come with 5 different fuses. It's the 5 amp fuses I'll be using. These taps here are the correct type to fit the fuse box of the KIA EV6. If you're installing your dash cam into a different car, you'll need to find out which fuse taps fit your fuse box. If you're unsure, you can buy this 36-piece set, which comes with 3 common types of taps and a selection of fuses. However, I wouldn't recommend using these fuses with the Blackvue dash cam, as they all appear to be 15 amp. The lower the ampere, the better. Now, Blackvue recommend a 1 amp or 2 amp fuse, but I couldn't find them anywhere. The lowest rated fuse I could find, which came with these single packs, are 5 amp. Having said that, I'm not too concerned, as the primary wiring comes with built-in fuses for added protection. I also purchased some 𝗬𝗂𝗃𝗃 insulation tape. It's a little like electrical PVC tape, but its face has a fine coating of fleece. It's not only ideal for taping up wire within the bodywork of the car, but it also helps to prevent potential tapping noises if the wire happens to rattle around. I also have this cable puller, should I decide to pull the cable through and downside top part of the car. before the installation of the camera brackets, I'll be thoroughly cleaning the glass before I apply the camera mounts. I have some alcohol wipes and some preparatory cleaning spray for that. The glass needs to be completely dry and spotless, so free from dust and any other surface contamination, in order for them to stick firmly into place. I have a 10mm socket wrench which I'll use to loosen a suitable knot to secure an earth connection for the camera. I have some masking tape, scissors and a permanent marker pen. I have small nose pliers here for removing fuses. However, Kia do provide their own. Simply pop open the bonnet and you'll find them in the main fuse box. Hopefully they're man enough for the job. I have some clean cloths and a sheet which I'll use to protect the console from debris and potential damage. Finally, I have the dash cam. I've formatted and installed the micro SD card already, so I don't anticipate any problems, so everything should be good to go. As mentioned before, in my other video on how to prepare the SD card prior to installation, can be found in the description below. Probably another important thing you should consider is subscribing to my channel. Certainly if you don't want to miss out on my other videos and want to get notified when I add new content. Now, if I haven't already convinced you to subscribe, at least be kind enough to give me a thumbs up instead, as it will really help my channel. Okay, with that out the way, let's start protecting the areas that I'm going to be working around. So let's lay that on there and cover this part of the console. Right, the front facing camera is going up here under the rear view mirror. Pretty obvious really. So I need to get the power cable from this point behind and along the windscreen panel, down the A pillar, across into the fuse box area. Okay, before I go feeding the wires through the panels, let's just check the camera works. Now, I did mention I was going to show you some other installation methods. So first, let's power up the cameras using the 12-volt power outlet. I'm not going to do anything fancy here. I just want to make sure the camera powers up. Let's plug the 12-volt power connector into the port down here. Now, in regard to hiding the wiring and making it nice and neat, it's going to be a bit of a challenge. Anyway, that's something for you to think about. Certainly the most beneficial and neatest method is to hardwire the camera to the fuse box. Just remember, to take full advantage of the DR900X parking mode feature, it will need a constant power supply for when the car is off. That's why I'm wiring it directly to the fuse box. More on that later. Okay, so I've already installed the SD card. Let's plug the power cable into the DC slot. Now let's turn on the car to give it some power. Okay, the camera's saying something to me. It's not very loud. Okay, so that appears to be working. Then again, it will only work when the car is on. The GPS indicator light and the recording light is on. On the end here, you can see the Wi-Fi light is active as well. Okay, let's attach the rear camera. The 90-degree end goes to the front camera. The other end, the straight end, simply pushes into the rear camera. Let's put both cameras up on the dashboard there for now. Assuming you've already downloaded the Blackvue app and registered your online account, you should be ready to connect the app to the dash cam. Right, making sure you have Wi-Fi and Bluetooth enabled on your smartphone. Open the app and select Connect to Camera. Press OK if you're prompted to connect to Blackvue Wi-Fi. Next, tap the plus icon in the top right corner. Now the DR900X has seamless pairing, so I'll just click Next on that. Great, that says it's found it, so let me select that. Now let me put my hand in front of the proximity sensor That was easy. Okay, that's connected. Let's OK that. I'll select my camera. Ask to join Wi-Fi network. Yes to that. Okay, the app wants me to allow access to connect to the device on my local network. I'll allow that. Okay, let me select the camera again. Yep. That appears to be all my captured recordings while I've been chatting. That's pretty intuitive, you know. Now, if you're having difficulty connecting to the dash cam, you also have the option to connect to the camera manually. The screen here shows you where to find the SSID and the password for your camera. Just remove the camera mount to reveal the label. There's also a label stuck on the inside of the box. For security reasons, I've blanked my details out. You can select to watch any video in the list, or at the bottom right here, you have a link to the live view option. You can also select which camera you want to view. So here we see the current video feed from the front camera. Let's take a look at the video feed from the rear camera. Okay, I know the video looks warped, but that is expected as it's intended to capture a wide field of view. Okay, let's go back to the front camera. Great, everything looks nice and crisp, and we can see that both cameras are working now. Now, the other method for connecting the dash cam is via the car's OBD port or OBD2 port. Most cars from about 1996 onward will probably have an OBD port, and from about 2003 onwards, OBD2. Essentially, this little OBD device sort of works similar to hardwiring, but negates the need for tapping into the fuse box. Now, I'm not going to waffle on for hours as to the other features OBD has to offer. Let me just summarise it by saying it's a little like the car's very own high-tech USB port. This particular OBD connector has been specifically designed to work with the Blackvue 590, 750 and 900X dash cams. There's also another type which work with many of the other models. A link to these products can be found in the description below. Right, let me unplug the 12-volt adapter. We won't be needing that anymore. Okay, let's plug the connector into the OBD2 port. Let's remove the panel to access the fuse box. It's easy to take off. Here's the OBD2 port, just below the fuses there. Let's plug it in. Now, just be aware your garage will also use this port to diagnose your car when it goes in for a service. So make sure you neatly bunch up any access wiring using a little 𝗓𝗓 tape or a cable tie, so it's accessible and easy for them to unplug. Okay, well that was easy, I hear you say, but there is a drawback. When you turn the car off, you'll need to flip this button to the parking mode position to activate the power for the camera's parking mode feature. You just have to remember to do this each time you park the car. Whereby if it's hardwired, you don't have to worry about any of that as it's all automatic. More on that later. If you do go down the OBD route, just pay close attention to the user manual regarding the delay in powering it up, etc. Let's plug in the DC power to the front camera. Turn on the car. Okay, that's powered up.
Starting normal recording.
Following the guidelines in the manual, the OBD needs a little time to obtain an accurate voltage reading. So let me close everything for now and I'll come back. Well, I left that for just over 10 minutes, just to be sure. Let's see if there's still power to the camera. Yes, all good. Okay, let me turn the car off and wait until the camera powers down. Okay, that's off. It took about 15 minutes before it lost total power. Let me turn the car back on. Great. the dash cam's come back to life. Let's try the parking mode this time and flip the switch the other way. Let me leave it a while to see if it stays on. Okay, it's been about 30 minutes now, and yes, the parking mode is still working. Let me check the cameras. Yep, they're all working too. Well, that's it for the OBD connector. If you do decide to use this connection method, you can still follow along and watch the rest of the video, as the remaining part is basically hiding the wiring and connecting the cameras. Now, in case you're wondering, the dash cam doesn't use the power from the main car batteries. It uses the power from the single, smaller battery under the hood. Now, I wouldn't really worry about the battery going flat, as the DR900X has a fail-safe feature, which will turn the camera off if the voltage reaches a certain point. More on that and other features in another video. Okay, let's get cracking with the hardware installation. Right, the front-facing camera is going here, so I need to lay the primary power cable from this point behind and along the windscreen panel, down the A pillar and across into the fuse box area. I've laid some cloth down to protect the areas I'm working around. Now, because I'm tucking both wires behind the windshield lining, I'm taping them both together using some 𝗧𝗶𝗱𝗲𝗄 tape. I want both wires side by side. Hopefully this will make it easier when I come to fit it. Okay, I'm sticking a strip of masking tape up here just in case I need to mark the camera position. Right, I need to pull out the plastic cover here just above the mirror. Let me pull the mirror out of the way. Great, that was easy. It just pulled straight out. Now, I did attempt to remove the main part of the housing, but it was impossible to find the retaining clips. After prodding my fingers around and trying the panel lever, I eventually gave up after 10 minutes. Probably best left alone in all honesty, in that I didn't want to damage it or, more importantly, any of the wiring or sensors housed behind it. Okay, I've just topped my wiring up within the windscreen liner using my fingers and the panel tool. It's so easy. I've also fed the wire around the top corner of the plastic housing and down through the space where the small plastic cover was. Here's a short video clip showing the wiring taped in place. I used black gaffer tape for this in the end, as PVC tape just wouldn't stick. Okay, I'm at the corner of the A pillar. I've taped the wires here for now to hold them in place. Now, there is a gap, and I know I could easily feed the wires in there and across. However, the EV6 has 7 airbags. Now, to ensure these airbags work as they should, if they ever happen to deploy, you shouldn't be laying wires over them. Let me just pull back this rubber trim. Let me detach the top part of this panel using the tool. Yeah, that did it. Okay, let me just tape the wires together to make them easier to feed through. That white tubular shape you see there is the airbag. Now I'm going to feed the wiring through the gap and behind the airbag. Now it's just a case of running the wire down the pillar. I've already pulled off most of the rubber door trim. Let me secure that with some 𝗧𝗶𝗱𝗲𝗄 tape. Okay, let's work it down the gap until we get in line with the fuse box. Let's push the A panel back on. Easy to put back on, just bang it with the side of your hand. Right, I just need to get the main power wire across the gap in this lower panel and into the fuse box area. Simply pull the panel with your left hand while using the prior tool. Great, that's done it. Now I'll pull the remaining wire underneath and through, ready for the hard wiring. Now, because I'd removed the rubber door strip, I've already threaded some of the rear camera wire across the top of the driver's door towards the B pillar. For now, I've just pushed the wire in the small gap at the top part of the B pillar panel using the lever tool. I've coiled and taped it up for now, ready for when I run the rest of the wire across later. Let's concentrate on getting everything wired up and working. Now, don't let this part scare you in any way, just follow my instructions and you can't go wrong. As you can see here, the fuse housing summarises the use for each fuse. Also, if you refer to a user manual, the use for each fuse is explained in more detail. To be perfectly honest, there's potentially several fuses you could tap into here. However, if something should go wrong, although I very much doubt it, you don't really want to be tapping into a fuse that powers crucial components, such as airbags or any of the primary module fuses, as these tend to control many of the car's critical systems. The fuse taps required for the KIA EV6 are the Micro 2 type. I don't think they get any smaller than this, well, certainly for cars anyway. Here's a simple diagram showing the various parts and how they work. The flat aluminium prongs slot into the retainer slots on the fuse board, just like a typical fuse would. The outer prong delivers the power, 12 volt load. It's important to remember this for when we connect it later. The power out coming back through the fuse is the return of the power. The top slot will house the dash cam fuse, a 1 or 2 amp fuse. That's if you're fortunate enough to get your hands on one. Mine are both 5 amp fuses, as that's the lowest I could find. The lower slot will house the existing fuses, the ones we're about to remove. Let me also point out, the top fuse should always be a lower ampere than the existing fuse. Now, which fuse should you use? Well, may I suggest you use the USB charger for when the car is turned on, and maybe something like the door lock relay fuse for constant power when the car is off. Now, let me mark the fuses I'll be using with the fuse taps before I go pulling them out. Right, we can go ahead and connect the red and yellow wire to the fuse taps now. Let me slide off this outer part. I'll twist the wire and fold it so the wire's thicker for a tighter fit. Let's crimp the wire in place. I'll do this in several places. Right, that feels nice and secure. And the other one, a little tug. Yeah, that's tight in there. Okay, let's push in the 5 amp fuse. Wow, that was hard to push in. Let's do the other one. Lovely. Next, I'm going to remove the 2 fuses I marked. Now, if you haven't got a pair of long nose pliers for removing the fuses, KIA has kindly provided one. Just pop open the bonnet. To the right, open the main fuse box cover using the 2 clips. Pull out this white thing, and that's your fuse puller. Now, as mentioned before, because I'm tapping into something that's already fused, I'm going to remove the existing fuses from the fuse box. Now, before I test for power using my probe tool, I need to clip the earth wire to the car chassis. It's important the wire has a good ground connection, so it needs to be connected directly to the metal chassis of the car, not plastic. Make sure you don't forget to connect this. Now, let me turn the power on. Now I can test which side of the fuse retainers has constant power. This is where the door lock relay fuse was. Just push the end of the tester into the fuse port, making sure you come in contact with the metal retainer inside. Here I'm probing the left side and there's no power. Double check. Okay, the right side lights up, so I know this is the load side. Yes, definitely power. And the left again, nothing. Good. Let me mark the power side so I don't forget. Now let's test where the USB charger fuse once was. Yes, we have power on the right, on the left, nothing. Let me double check. Great. Again, I'll make a small mark on the power side. Now let me turn the power off and test the fuse ports again. Great, we still have constant power where the door relay fuse was, and there's now no power where the USB charger fuse was. Great, this slot will eventually power the dash cam only when the car is on. Now, before I forget, the first wire I'm going to connect is the earth wire. It's important it has a good ground connection, so it needs to be connected directly to the metal chassis of the car, not a bolt mounted to plastic. Okay, I've had a good look around and decided I'm going to connect the earth to this nut behind the left side of the fuse box, as it appears to be directly in contact with the metal framework. 10mm nut by the looks of it. Let's loosen it with my 10mm socket. Slide it behind the nut and tighten it. Great, that's all tight and secure. Now I need to push each fuse into the bottom slot of each of the fuse taps. We've already connected our 5A fuse. Now we just need to connect the accessory fuse. That's the blue fuse used by the USB charger. Remember, this will only power the dash cam when the car is on. Now for when the car is off, we need the tap with the yellow wire for constant power in order to power the dash cam for the parking mode function. All we need to do now is fuse it. So let's slot the door lock relay fuse in there. That's the 20A fuse we removed previously. Just so you know, although it probably doesn't really matter, the car is off at the moment. Finally, let's plug in the fuse taps, remembering that the powered prong, or the load, is on the outer edge of the fuse tap. Let's connect the tap containing the door lock relay fuse. Now, if for any reason you happen to put it the wrong way around, it will still work, but the power will bypass the fuse altogether, so make sure you get it right. Right, let's connect the accessory fuse. There we go. Technically, we would have power to the camera now, regardless if the car was on or off. Word of caution though, just make sure when you come to fit your taps, they're in the correct orientation. In my case, both taps point upwards, powered on the right of the fuse taps. Now, don't rely on my orientation of the fuse taps, as if you happen to tap into a different fuse, the tap may very well go the other way around. Now, to neaten things up, I've just taped the wires together with a bit of 𝗧𝗧𝗃 tape and threaded a cable tie through the small slot just above the OBD port. Great, now that's all nice and neat. Let's put the fuse cover back on. Let's push the rubber door trim back on. The last thing we want is leaks. Just make sure it's fully seated. Especially in the corner of the B pillar. Okay, let's remove all this tape from the windscreen. Now, I don't know how well you can see this, but the front and rear wire exits via the gap below this small clip-on panel. Okay, now I just need to clean the glass where the camera's going. A couple of sprays on a microfiber cloth should be enough. Remembering that the glass needs to be spotless to ensure the camera mount attaches firmly. Squeaky clean. I'm also using an alcohol wipe, also great for cleaning glass. Just make sure the glass is completely dry. Let's also clean the plastic part where I intend to stick down the wires. I know all too well how hard it is to stick anything to plastics. That should do it. Now I'm just offering the camera up to the glass so I know where to place it. I'm just going to stick mine on by eye. Yeah, just about there. Right, let's peel the red backing tape from the camera mount so we can stick it to the window. Bloody tape, it's a total nightmare to get any corner to lift. Finally, it better not come off after all that. Now I'm just doing this by eye, ensuring the wires align with the inputs on the edge of the camera. Admittedly, it's a little bit off center, but it still looks okay. Right, let's go with that. Twist it slightly. Perfect. Now I can firmly stick it in place, being careful not to twist it while I'm pushing on it. Hopefully, it will never fall off. Okay, so I've inserted the main DC power and the rear camera wire now. I just want to neaten up the wires, so I'll cut a small strip of gaffer tape and I'll stick them down into place. As you can see, the car is off at present, so the camera's parking mode is on at the moment. This is what the LED lights look like. Let's remove the lens cap. Right, let's take a quick look at the Blackvue app. Wow, nice and sharp and crisp, vivid colours. Back camera, yeah, just as I thought. We haven't connected it yet. Well, at least we know the front camera's working nicely. Now, with that out of the way, let's install the rear view camera. Based on what I've installed so far, I'm expecting this to be a breeze. That went in there nice and easy. Let me pull the rubber door seal off. It's a bit tight. Right, that's got it. Now I'm just going to run the wire along the entire length of the roof line, making sure it's behind the airbag. This was a little finicky, getting the wire started in the corner gap on the plastic panel at the top of the C pillar. The tool came in handy. Great, let's put the rubber back. Lovely, lovely, lovely. Let me just work the wire in the gap across to the small pilot window in the corner. Wow, this bit here is really tight. Well, I managed to secure the wire just past the window, but it still needs tucking up there a little bit more. Let's get the rest of the wire in there and through to the back for now. Right, finally we're there. Let's get this rubber up and out of our way. Ugh, some sticky black sealant holding it in there. Yuck. Right, now I need to get the wire into this space here so I can feed it through the rubber wiring grommet. I need more finger space to help me get it through, so I'm just going to prise the corner of this panel up. Well, that's done it. Right, let's remove the rubber grommet. It's dead easy. Here I'm using a cable tie which I've taped to the wire, so now it's just a case of pulling it through the grommet hole. Okay, starting from the corner, I'm just going to prise this panel off. Wow, that was so easy. It's just held on with 6 plastic poppers. Okay, let me remove the top part of this grommet. That's the wire out. The first time I've used this cable puller, I think I'm going to use it for threading through the grommet here. I'm feeding it through to the top of the grommet and out through the bottom. I've attached the wire to the end of the cable puller. Now I just need to pull it through. Just trying to keep the rubber grommet straight. Right, well, that wasn't too difficult. It only took me a few minutes. Let me pull the remaining cable through, being careful not to kink it. Okay, on with the rubber grommet. Nice and easy, that. Let's detach the wire from the cable puller. Right, I'm going to use the cable puller again to get the remaining wire into the open panel of the tailgate. Okay, let me just attach the wire to this so I can pull it back through. Push back the top part of the grommet. Now I'm just going to bundle up the excess wire and secure it in place with some very sticky gaffer tape. I don't want the wire rattling around in there. Right, that ain't going anywhere. Okay, let's clean the glass in preparation for the rear camera. I've taped up the demister wires as I don't want to damage them. Now I'll dry it off with the other side of the cloth. Right, let's remove this and stick the camera on. Again, just like the front camera, I'm sticking this on by eye. Right, that's it. A nice firm push to fix it in place. Let me carefully peel off the tape. Okay, now what I've done here is mark the glass with a little bit of tape, as this is where I want the wire to come out. Now I'm just going to do the same with the large plastic panel. I'm just using the edge of the drill to make a small groove to accommodate the wire. As you can see, the damage to the plastic is very minimal. Let's plug in the wire. Right, let's take the wire in place in line with my mark. That's perfect. Let's push that down firmly in place. Another piece of tape here, I think. Finally, the plastic panel. Line up the white fixings. Right, that's nicely clipped into place. Just be sure you get the camera the correct way around. The wired side should be to the left. However, there is an option within the app to flip the image, so if you happen to stick the camera upside down, it's not a major issue. Right, this is the feed from the rear camera via the Blackvue app. I'm sure there's a way to brighten it up. And this is what the camera looks like when the tailgate is down. You can barely see it. Well, that's it for this video. Many thanks for expressing interest and watching it. If you don't want to miss any of my other videos dedicated to the KIA EV6, simply subscribe to my channel and you'll be notified as soon as they're available. Also, if you enjoyed this video, please do give it a thumbs up. Also, feel free to post a comment in the section below, as I'd love to see what you have to say. Many thanks, and I'll see you in the next one. 𝗏𝗃𝗏𝗏 out. If you really enjoyed this video and found it helpful, please support my channel by buying me a coffee. It only costs £1, it's quick and easy, and there's no need to create an account. Oh, and many thanks for those of you who have already donated, it's much appreciated.